Hello guys, good evening. I told you I was gonna go live tonight to answer some questions that were submitted a couple of days ago. I have a lot of questions to get through. Hello Josh the Carnivore. Hi Keto Kiwi. Some of my favorite people are on here already. Hey guys. Hey, so I'm going live tonight to answer a butt ton of questions that people submitted a couple of days ago. I was gonna make reels out of the questions, but this is how many there are. There are so many. Each one is one question. And so it would take me 2 months, and I don't want you to have to wait 2 months to get answers to these questions. So I'm answering almost all the questions here tonight. And then if it's not answered tonight, then I'm going to do a reel about it. There's 2 that I'm not answering. I'm going to do more reels about. And if you have any questions tonight about carnivore or something that you want to ask me, you can ask it live too. That's fine. There's a little question box in the bottom right of your screen. You can put it in there. Otherwise, I'll definitely miss it if you put it in the comments. But I'm just gonna dive right in and start answering some of these questions. Now, let me tell you, at the end of this, I'm gonna answer the biggest question. There's actually 2. How long did it take to lose weight? And what are your current macros? So if you're watching the beginning of this and you wanna know the answers to those questions, then later when I post the replay, fast forward to the end or stay for the whole thing tonight and I will answer those questions. They're kind of big in my life right now. But anyway, okay, so I'm gonna get into these questions. I'm gonna stay on for up to an hour. And if you guys have questions tonight and that makes me not get to all these questions, then I will do another live next week to finish. I promise I will get to all of them. Okay, so first question, actually there's 2 I'm gonna combine. One person said, COVID and Christmas sent me away from carnivore into a carb binge, having a hell of a time getting back on track. Advice. Okay, now that's one question. The other question is very similar, so I'm gonna combine them. How do you stop carb and sugar cravings? I'm having a hard time and end up cheating. So I understand this completely as a person who was previously so addicted to sugar and was a binge eater. For me, it was always really, really hard to get back on track, to the point that when I first started being a carnivore, I started binging again and I could not stop. So I had to quit being a carnivore. If you feel like weeks and months are going by and you cannot stop and you just keep going through this bingy roller coaster and you're gaining weight because eating a high fat diet and then a bunch of carbs is terrible for you, then I would suggest, this is probably not popular advice, but I would suggest quitting. Don't be a carnivore for a while. Like, go to keto or something that you can maintain without binging every other day. And then when you're of your right mind, you can sort of decide, do I actually want to be a carnivore? And if so, start it again with a completely different mindset. I just posted a YouTube video about this a couple days ago. It's the newest one on my YouTube page. So if you go there, delighted to meet you on YouTube. I talk a lot about this. But the other advice I would give is if you feel like you really can get back on track and you're not gonna just keep cycling, then pick an amount of days that you're willing to commit 100%. So for example, say I'm gonna commit 100% for 30 days. For 30 days, I cannot eat cookies, I cannot cheat, I cannot eat donuts if they're in the office in the morning. There is no exception. I will not cheat for 30 days, not forever, but for 30 days. Make it through those 30 days. White knuckle it. Do everything you have to do. Eat all the fat. Eat bacon. Do everything you have to keep junk food out of your mouth. And then when you get to the end of the 30 days, if you're like, I don't want to commit to this for life, then you can rethink your plan. But you'll probably be feeling a whole lot better after 30 days, and then you can actually make a clear decision. So that's my advice. Looks like a question came in, so I'll answer this. I can't make sense of some of this. Just out the reminder thing on your stories, where we can get a reminder. Okay, somebody just wanted a reminder, I guess, of when I'd be live. It's right now. What are your thoughts on whey protein? I have at least 1 shake a day post-workout. I mean, if you're doing great with whey protein, sure, keep it up. But I understand that whey is one of the more insulinogenic, meaning it increases your insulin more than other types of protein. So it's not recommended for that reason if you have issues with insulin. Also, if you have issues with dairy, I don't know if it's as triggering as other types of dairy, but it could be. So I don't use it, but I think it's fine. I don't know if it's a complete protein. I'm assuming it's not. So like if I have an incomplete protein like collagen or something, I do not count that in my protein macros because it's not a complete protein. It just doesn't count quite the same. Great question though. Okay, so when you say binge, this is binging on things like carbs. Technically, I suppose a binge is any uncontrolled eating on any kind of food. I don't think people usually binge on foods that are not junk carbs. Sorry, I'm like speaking 2 miles a second, barely at all, because I was trying to delete those messages. Yeah, most people do tend to binge on processed carb junk foods. So that's mostly what I'm talking about. But if you're binging on loads and loads of cheese or pork rinds or whatever, that counts too. I mean, if you're to the point you cannot stop, you're making yourself physically sick, you're eating thousands of calories in one sitting, then that would be a binge. So if you can't stop that, then you need to get rid of those foods. And again, kind of follow that same advice of resetting your mindset, setting a number of days you can stick to, all that good stuff. Excellent question. Okay, will you ever do goat foods, butter, milk, and meat? Sure. I have had goat before. I got it from Billy Doe Meats and it was good. It's lean, so I don't love it for that reason, but I like it. I love goat cheese, like goat cheese on a good salmon, so freaking good, but I'm currently not doing dairy. And I don't know, maybe goat dairy would be better. I could maybe tolerate that better. So I have nothing against that. Do you have any hair loss when starting animal-based? I personally have not had any hair loss when I first became carnivore, when I went high-fat carnivore. Now I'm actually doing something different. I'm not getting that many calories and I'm not getting that much fat. And it's only been a few days, but I've not noticed anything with my hair. But I have heard people say if you're having hair loss, then it is likely related to not enough calories or not enough protein. I also have heard from Maria and Craig Emmerich that just changing your diet significantly can create hair loss, even if you're not having a deficiency. So if it's just temporary at the very beginning, maybe don't worry about it too much. But if it's a continual thing, really take a look at, are you getting enough calories and are you getting enough protein? Okay, so I'm trucking along here. I'm doing good. But again, if you guys have questions live, just put them down in that question box. I'm just marking these off so I don't get lost. This is interesting. Does eating carnivore tie into your spiritual beliefs in any way? I like that question. I would say no, not really. I haven't thought about that at all. But my personal belief is that we were created to eat animals and the animals were created for us to eat. So I guess that helps me to not have a bunch of guilt about it. But otherwise, no, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with my faith. Somebody asked me, did I eat bone marrow yet? Yes, I did. I roasted it in my air fryer. It was the kind that is like circular. It's just about 1 inch tall. It's circular and cut like this, kind of like tree rings. And I did not love it. It was okay. It was something different. I think I would have liked it more had I cooked it longer, so it was like more burned almost. But I tried it just fresh out of the air fryer, really kind of gooey and soft, and the texture was weird. And then the other half I put in the fridge, and I ate it when the texture had kind of firmed back up. But it's very kind of like tallow and butter, and I'm just not into those kinds of fats. And I think it's because of the texture. But I did try. Okay, how long does it take to get fat adapted? About 4 to 6 weeks. So especially for the first week, I mean, you're still going through carbs that are still in your bloodstream and then glycogen in your muscles and your liver. So that first week of transitioning to this kind of diet is really hard. But after that, you are becoming more fat adapted, but your body is not efficient at it until 4 to 6 weeks later when it's had all this practice and you've created more mitochondria in your cells to even help more with that fat fat adaptation. So actually, let me circle back to this, but I've changed my diet quite a bit recently. That's what I'm going to talk about at the end. And you must be fat adapted before you would ever try something like that. So just keep that in mind when I get to the end here. Okay, in the early days of the diet, did you have trouble sleeping? If so, what did you do to fix it? When I first became carnivore, for the first 6 or 7 months, I was eating to satiety, eating all kinds of animal products, pretty high protein, probably moderate fat, and I didn't really have trouble sleeping. I was sleeping pretty well. Then I went high fat carnivore, and I had a hell of a time sleeping. And now, in the last week, I've changed things up a little bit. I'm not eating near as much fat, and I don't know yet. I don't have enough evidence to know if I'm sleeping any better. So I haven't perfectly solved this issue, but I also do a lot of the bad things you're not supposed to do, like get on your phone right before bed. And, you know, I get myself worked up and I'm doing activities right till bedtime. And so I don't really have like a slow down period. I haven't messed with the blue light glasses or anything like that. So I'm doing a lot of things wrong, is what I'm saying. But one thing I do that does help a lot is tape my mouth shut. Literally, I take a piece of paper tape and I tape my lips like this. Because even when I'm not carnivore, if I don't tape my mouth shut, especially because I wear a retainer at night, then my mouth opens and I breathe through my mouth and my mouth gets so dry and it wakes me up. So I don't know, try mouth taping. You might love it. I freaking love it. And it's great when you're in a relationship and you get to tell the person for the first time that you tape your mouth shut at night. They just love it. Oh dear. Okay, how long did you have binge eating disorder? I started binging when I was 15. I stopped last year when I was 37, so 22 years. Most of my life I was a binge eater. Hardcore binge eater. Do you have a certain number of meals per day? I typically do. I have usually 3 meals a day. I like to wake up and have breakfast. I like to have lunch. I like to have dinner. I'm not much of a faster. Every time I try to fast, it's just not good for me mentally. I think from like my old binge eating habits, it just makes me feel restricted. It makes me feel like I don't know. It just creates a lot of issues for me. I have not found any benefits from fasting. And I'm usually in ketosis. So if you're doing fasting for ketosis, I don't seem to need to. Lester asked, what do I think about rice? I don't eat it, but I know some people that are more like loosely carnivore or ancestral, that kind of thing. They say that white rice is actually one of the least toxic non-animal foods. Okay, fine. I never really cared about it before. It was more of a filler for me. So yeah, I don't have any significant negative feelings toward rice though. You go ahead and eat it if you want to. So I feel like my brain is saying something about arsenic though. Like there were some studies about it having arsenic, but you know what? Lots of people say that meat causes cancer and all that, and I don't believe that. So I don't know if I would believe that about the rice either. Okay, Bree, you're asking, do I calorie count? At the very end of this, I'm going to talk about what I'm doing right now, and it does have to do with calories and macros. So I will get there, I promise you. If you don't stay long enough to hear it tonight, it'll be in the replay at the very end. Okay, next. Do you snack or stick to 2 to 3 meals only? Snacking is a big problem for me, and I think it's one of the main reasons that I have not lost any weight as a carnivore. I've been a carnivore almost a year, and I currently weigh a few pounds less than I did when I started. Now, I don't really feel like I need to lose a lot of weight, and I also haven't focused on weight loss at all during this time. I've been focusing on other kinds of healing, but I would now I'm ready. I would like to lose a little bit of weight. And so I was just never allowing myself to even get hungry. And you know what I was eating all the time is beef jerky, because I love it. It's so delicious. And I could eat like 2 pounds of beef jerky in a day on top of my meals. So you asked, do I snack? The answer is yes, too much. And it's something I'm definitely trying to get away from. And I think that generally snacking on a carnivore diet is not a great idea on a regular basis, because you're losing some of the benefits of keeping your insulin low and just getting away from like eating disordered type of eating. Now, I'm not saying snacking is an eating disorder, but for me, it's It's not the same as binging, but it's not great either. Mike, you're asking a question that someone else asked here, so I'm going to answer it now. How long did it take for your skin issues to start clearing up? So it took first it got worse. Okay, it got worse for like 2 to 4 weeks. And then at about the 6-week mark, I was starting to notice some improvement. But frankly, it was like improvement from the worsening. You know what I mean? It was probably still worse than what I started. And it took about 6 months to get clear. Now, I was on an immunosuppressant injection that whole time. I was on it when my skin was terrible, and I had been on it for 6 months already at that point, and then I was on it as I was clearing. I just got off of it 4 months ago. So keep in mind that might affect the timeline. I don't know. But great question. Okay, how long did it take? Oh wait, nope, this is what we're going to at the end. How can I get more fat in? I have issues with butter. That's the question. First of all, think about why you want more fat. If it's because other carnivores say that a high-fat diet is the best, maybe think if you really believe that, for you. If you are doing fine with no added fat, I don't think it's necessary to add fat. But if for whatever reason you want to add fat or you just want to experiment with it, that's great. Some of my suggestions would be fat trimmings. They are super delicious. One of my favorite foods of all on a carnivore diet. So I get them from the meat cutter at my local grocery store. I call ahead and ask for them. They set them aside for me. I go pick them up, and then I come home and chop them up and cook them for 7 to 8 minutes in an air fryer or on the skillet until they're brown and crispy, and they're so good. Though I don't necessarily want to just eat them plain. They're great as a side with any kind of meat or in scrambled eggs or something like that. Otherwise, if you don't love butter, you probably also won't love tallow that much, so I won't necessarily recommend that. I don't really like it. Lots of people like those brown butter bites. I'm not a big fan, but if you want to try it, you sure could. Cooking with like bacon grease is great. So if you're cooking scrambled eggs, for example, you can put like a tablespoon of bacon grease or butter. You might tolerate the butter better cooked. That works pretty well. Also, egg yolks are pretty high in fat, so if you're gonna have 6 eggs, for example, maybe do 2 whole eggs and 4 egg yolks, and that'll increase your fat too. Those are the only things I can think of off the top of my head. If you guys have any suggestions, leave them in the comments about how to increase fat. Okay, do you drink coffee? If so, do you put anything in it? I love coffee. I gave it up for the month because I'm doing the Lion diet. And I promise you the first thing I will be adding back or trying to add back is coffee. So for my first week of February, I will have coffee every day and make sure it's not creating any issues, any stomach issues or skin issues or anything like that. It might cause some cramping, and I say that because I have had cramping most of my time as a carnivore, especially at night. And since I've stopped drinking coffee, I don't have the cramps. And I understand coffee can decrease magnesium levels, and low magnesium can cause cramping. But I am willing to take a magnesium supplement if it means I can drink coffee. So we'll see. And then as far as what do I put in it, I love it with heavy cream. It's so good. But I think dairy is probably out the door for me. I think it creates a lot of problems, especially with my autoimmune stuff. So from now on, I will just be happy to have black coffee, I think. All right. Why do you not have any more fridge magnets? Okay, well, that's a good question, because I like my fridge to be really plain. In fact, these Christmas cards, this is a good time to take them down right now because I don't like things on my fridge. And the only reason I have this calendar is because there's a dent in the fridge and it covers it. But also, this is a parking ticket that I got today, so that needs to stay there. But no, I don't like a bunch of clutter. I'm a little bit of a minimalist. That's why. Thank you for the question. Okay. What are the first foods to add in after carnivore? I mean, you don't have to add any in, but if you started to do the carnivore diet as an elimination diet and you do want to add things back in, I made a list of some things that you could try that will be the least difficult, I think. So these are like fruits and vegetables that are lower with anti-nutrients, and they're low sugar, low starch, all that. So butternut squash, zucchini, cucumber, berries, olives, green beans, and possibly avocado if you don't have any histamine issues, because I guess avocados are pretty high in histamine. you like my answer about the magnets, I see those smiley faces. Okay, what is your, oh wait, nope, that's for the end. How do you feel about cheese on the carnivore diet? Well, I love cheese, that's how I feel about it. But I'm also definitely addicted to cheese a little bit. So it's almost as bad as beef jerky for me. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. I wrote down some notes so I won't get these words wrong, but basically there's a protein in cheese called casein, C-A-S-E-I-N, that breaks down into compounds called casomorphins, right, like morphine, casomorphins, that trigger opioid receptors just like drugs do. So it does have a little bit of a, more than a little bit probably, of an addictive response. And it's just so delicious. It's hard not to eat too much of it. And I think for me and probably most people with autoimmune conditions, just having dairy, especially pasteurized dairy, the risks are not worth the benefits. So while I love cheese, I don't really think there's a place for it for me. But if you do great with it, if you don't have any addictive issues with it and you're not having any health issues, have all the cheese. Please have cheese for me too. Okay, a couple more live questions have come in, so let me answer these. Any certain cheese to avoid? For me, it's pasteurized. So yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like, if you can get your hands on raw cheese, maybe try that and see if that's better. I think goat cheese tends to be less irritating to people that have skin issues and stuff. And I don't know if goat cheese still has casein, if it's still as addictive. That I don't know. But I have never had a problem stopping eating goat cheese, even though it is really good. Okay, do you incorporate any electrolytes into your routine? I do. I take Redmond Relight, just the unflavored one. And I've been watching my nutrient targets in my app that I use to track my food. And I'm seeing that I'm getting quite a bit of potassium already just from meat. And I add a lot of salt to my food, so I'm definitely getting sodium. I also add salt to my water sometimes. So it's really just the magnesium that I am, I think, deficient in. And so I actually just ordered some. It literally arrived today. So I'm gonna start taking some magnesium glycinate so that I can hopefully drink coffee without getting cramps all the time. Oh man, you guys are fun. Okay, I'm deleting these live ones. Now that's empty. So if you have more questions, put them in there. I'm watching. But back to my list. I'm fairly new to carnivore. What did you do about palate fatigue? I really haven't had palate fatigue, even on a lion diet, which is much more restrictive. I have not had palate fatigue, but it's because I mix it up a lot. I do ground beef, beef patties, lamb shank, lamb breasts. I do stuff with fat trimming, so that's crispy. I think changing the texture helps a lot. Having crispy things sometimes, having soft things sometimes, having like soupy things sometimes, broth, just a mixture of all those things, that has really helped me to not have palate fatigue. So if you're experiencing that, especially if you're on a full carnivore diet, have some eggs, have bacon, have chicken with the skin so it's crunchy. Then some other time have like some beef soup where it's just ground beef and broth, and just change up the textures as well as the different sources of your meat, and maybe add cheese, a little bit of cheese to something if you can tolerate it, just to get different flavors. There's so many things you can eat and experiment with that will help with the palate fatigue. Meat-based monster said, for palate fatigue, eat pork belly strips with sour cream. It's so tasty. Yeah, that sounds really good. I have never seen pork belly at any grocery store near me, so I've never even had it, but I'm sure it's wonderful. Okay, hey, look. I got through this whole side. Now I just have this side. We're getting there. We're doing good. Okay, so is your psoriasis genetic? What if no one in my family has it? How bad can it get? So yeah, supposedly it's genetic. I mean, I believe that that's true. No one in my family has it either. Well, that I know of. I never met my dad, so I don't know anybody on that side of the family. But how bad can it get? I mean, it can get bad even if no one else has it. It, I suppose, depends on what's creating the issue, what's causing the inflammation that's making your body attack itself. So for me, I believe that was mostly my diet. So it got bad. I was binging and drinking alcohol and eating tons of sugar. Now, sometimes I was also eating super healthy, but for me that meant a butt ton of vegetables, and I think that made it worse. So yeah, my psoriasis got really bad. I don't want to scare you because I don't know if that would happen to everybody, and it didn't get that bad until I went on an immunosuppressant injection to help it. So tell me how that makes sense. But yeah, I would say just because no one else in your family has it, that doesn't mean that you're going to be fine. Just do whatever you want. Like if you have psoriasis and you want to get over it, then experiment with how that you can do that, whether that's diet or getting rid of chemicals or whatever it is. Empower yourself to do that. That's what I would say. Okay, do you still overeat carnivore foods out of habit as a binge eater? You know, I mentioned the beef jerky example. I do have a tendency to overeat. I would not say I've had a single binge as a carnivore, but I have had lots of episodes of overeating, meaning I'm just very aware that I'm not hungry and I'm eating more than I need. And you know, objectively I can tell because when I sleep, my heart rate is very elevated. So like the last few days, I've been probably under eating, honestly. We'll talk more about that at the end. But my heart rate at night has been like 48. When I'm overeating, it's like 62. And I can tell a difference. My quality of sleep is much, much different. So I don't know if it's because of my history of binging that I tend to overeat. I think it's just getting snacky and having foods in the house that you like to snack on. And I live alone, so there's nobody to see me and judge me. Maybe all of those factors, I guess. Okay, do you stop eating at a certain time? I don't have a set time to purposely stop eating, but lately I do stop eating usually around 6 because I'm usually hungry for dinner at like 5:30 and I'm not allowing myself to snack on top of my meals. So I'm usually done by 6 and then I wake up and eat breakfast at like, well, after the gym, so 7 or so. Okay, next question. Is olive oil fine, or which fat or oil should I use for cooking on the Lion diet? So if you're talking about the Lion diet, technically olive oil would be out anyway because it also wouldn't be on a carnivore diet because it's not an animal product. So if we're saying like dogmatically, is it allowed on those diets? No. On the Lion diet, well, actually let me back up. On a regular carnivore diet, any animal fat would be perfect. So lard from pork or bacon grease specifically, or duck fat, or tallow, obviously from beef, any of those kinds of things would be totally fine. But on the Lion diet, if you're really sticking to ruminant animals only, then I suppose you're eating lamb fat or beef fat. That's about it. But the thing about olive oil, I asked this question in a group of carnivores recently because I was kind of confused about it, but it's not as good as an animal fat for a couple of reasons. It's not as bad though as those seed oils that we always hear about. But one of the reasons that it's not as good is because lots of olive oils sit rancid for a long time in these jars. Like no one's inspecting them to make sure they have good quality. And also sometimes they are mixed with seed oils. So you don't necessarily know what you're getting with olive oil. So those are the main reasons that it's not as good, I guess, as animal fats. But it's not as bad as like canola oil either. So keep that in mind. If you're gonna use oils or fats that are not from an animal, I guess I would probably choose olive oil or maybe coconut oil. I just personally avoid those things. Okay, Meat-Based Monster said oils are based on their heat intolerance. Olive is the only one I touch that's not butter, tallow, etc., but I don't heat it. Yes, I've heard that. So when you heat the olive oil, it oxidizes, I guess. So if you're using it like as a salad dressing where it's not being heated, it's less of an issue. It's not an issue as far as the oxidation. Okay, Meat-Based Monster also said, I think antibiotics from early age caused a lot of gut issues and our sad diets has compounded it. Add in chemicals, we are set up to fail. I definitely agree with that. I got psoriasis when I was 7, immediately after I'd had a strep throat and then went on antibiotics. And this is a very, very common story for children. They go on antibiotics, they end up with psoriasis. And this bout of terrible skin that you see all over my page when I had the vasculitis and then the terrible psoriasis again, that was also preceded by a terrible, terrible strep throat that I ended up in the hospital for because I needed IV antibiotics because none of the oral antibiotics were healing my strep throat. So I agree from this antibiotic gut perspective, that is absolutely like a huge cause for any kind of autoimmune issue, I suppose, but certainly psoriasis. And that was definitely my experience. But before I went on a carnivore diet, I couldn't stop getting freaking chronic strep throats. The ENT wanted to take my tonsils, and once I've been on the diet, I don't even ever have a sore throat, much less a strep throat. So I consider that a win. You guys, we are killing it. I only have a few questions left. Okay, someone said, I am always in ketosis between 2 and 3, and glucose is 75 to 85 after all this time. Why do I get into higher rates of ketosis more easily than others that eat and fast the same as me? And so, I'm not an expert on this, so I had to look it up. And what I found is that there are many factors that affect ketosis, such as age, metabolism, exercise level, and the macros you're eating, how much you're fasting. And some people are just more susceptible to a ketotic state than others. So if being in ketosis is your goal, then congratulations, you're winning. That's awesome. Without even trying. And I know who you are, so I know that you don't eat a ton of fat, you also don't eat a ton of calories, and you have a fairly small eating window, I think. And I think those things probably are helping with the ketosis, although lots of people think you need to eat lots of fat to be in ketosis, but at the end of this, we're almost there. I'll tell you that has not been my experience either, that you need a ton of fat to be in ketosis. Okay, if you're tracking macros, do you measure pre or post cooking values? I've asked this question a lot of people because I was confused about that too. I guess that the pre-recorded calorie counts and stuff in the apps, like the Chronometer is the one I use, or MyFitnessPal, or whatever you're using. For proteins especially, those are pre-cooked numbers. So if I am gonna have 4 ounces of ribeye, I cook it usually, because I cook a whole ribeye and then I cut off 4 ounces. And then I give myself like 3.5 to 3.75 ounces, knowing that was probably 4 ounces before it was cooked, because I am trying to be pretty particular with the macros. With fat, however, like if I do fat trimmings, I weigh it after it's been cooked, because so much of the fat renders in the bottom of the pan or the bottom of the air fryer. I can't imagine you'd be getting an accurate estimation if you measured that before, because you lose like half of the weight. So fats, I measure after cooking. Proteins, I measure before cooking. Excellent question. All right, let's see, there's a new one in here. Mouth taping, I was just reading about this. I'm beginning to think you've tried everything I've been wondering about. I'm here for you, Asphalt Carnivore. I have tried all the things, and I can tell you which ones are awesome, mouth taping is awesome, and which ones suck. Well, I can't think of any off the top of my head that suck, but there have been fasting. Fasting sucks for me. I know many of you have excellent results with fasting, and that's awesome, and I'm so happy for you. It's just not for me. Okay, last question on my list. Then I'll answer any other questions in my little question box, and then we'll talk about the big topic that I've been putting off and teasing so long. Thank you all for being here, by the way. There's a bunch of you, and I'm really excited, and it's been fun to get to do this by myself, because I almost always have a guest now, which is fun too. But it's fun being here with just you and me, and I like it. Okay, did you have a setback on your journey? How did you overcome this? So this is another thing I've talked about a lot lately on YouTube. If you're not subscribed over there, it's the same name, Delighted to Meet You. And I have put a couple longer form videos over there recently, so certainly check it out if you want to hear the full story. But yes, I have had a setback. It was basically that I started the carnivore diet. Well, I've been 100% carnivore for almost 1 year, but 2 years ago is when I first learned about the diet and started it. And I wasn't serious enough about it, and I was allowing myself to cheat a little here and there, and that led to binging episodes, and I gained a ton of weight, and I felt terrible. And so I had to quit altogether, completely quit for like 6 months. And then I realized, nope, I actually want to be a carnivore for probably the rest of my life. I don't need to cheat and eat cookies or drink alcohol or whatever. So I tend to be one of those people who learns from mistakes best. And so I kind of had to fail to get really good. And now I'm in this awesome space where like I know what the other side looks like for me. And that's helped me to stay motivated, I guess. Okay, what are a few tools to measure ketones? I actually have one I would recommend. I won't go off the frame to grab it, but it's from Care. It's a really easy to use one. The strips are good. I think there's pros and cons to multiple different ones, and I've used two myself, but the Care is my favorite. And I do have a code. It's Delighted, and I recently made a reel about this. Okay, so it's on the cover of the reel. It's a few days ago. It's me and this guy, and I was checking his blood sugar, and there's a link in there. There's information in there about how to get it. One of these days I'll put the link in my bio, but that's the one that I use and that I like, and it does ketones and blood sugar. And I personally check mine every morning, and it's been invaluable to me as I've changed my diet from regular carnivore to high fat carnivore to now this other thing I'm doing, because it helps me to see like what's happening with my glucose, to kind of interpret what's happening with my insulin and what's happening with ketosis, and it's helped me to just make decisions about how much to eat, when to eat, how much fat to eat, all of that kind of stuff. So I definitely recommend doing it. Okay, so now we're gonna get to the big thing I've been waiting to talk about, which I mentioned this in my story, so some of you might have seen this. But the two questions that people asked, that I'm gonna read those, and then we'll go into this topic. One question is, how long did it take to see weight loss results? And the other question is, what is your current macronutrient percentage of fat to protein? What percent do you feel is best for you? So I have been carnivore almost 1 year. And sorry, I'm getting distracted by the comments. I can't look. Anyway, I've been carnivore for almost a year, and I have not really lost any weight. I mean, from time to time, I might have lost like 5 pounds, but I kind of just go up and down 5 pounds. It's not a huge change, especially for me. 5 pounds is nothing. So I would say my weight has stayed very stable. However, I have had tons of healing as a carnivore, so that's been a huge success. If I never lose a pound, I will be completely happy and I will stay carnivore. But now that things are going so well, I'm rocking the boat a little, and I do want to focus on losing some weight. And I shared a reel today about a DEXA scan I got, so I know exactly how much weight I have to lose. I know exactly how much fat I have on my body and what my body fat percentage is. And this overlapped with me taking a class that I'm just trying to learn more about keto and carnivore and how to help other people depending on their circumstances. And it's Maria Emmerich's class. It's called Keto Adapted. And they teach their clients to do high protein, moderate to low fat, and pretty low calories if you're trying to lose weight. So now that I've had all this healing and I'm completely fat adapted, I just wanted to try it, okay? Now this is coming from regular carnivore for 7-ish months and then high fat carnivore for 4 months. Now I'm doing this other way. So my macros right now, I stay under 85 grams of fat per day. Now I get exactly 85 grams a day. I figure it out. I've like Tetris the macros so I can get exactly 85 grams, and I get 120 plus grams of protein a day. And you're supposed to keep supposed to keep my calories between like under 1,400, I think, which I know is so low. And before I learned about this method that they teach, I would have said, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely crazy. But the theory is that once you're fat adapted, your body doesn't really care or know the difference between fat that you ingest and fat on your body. It's all the same. So you can eat 1,000 calories of fat, or you can take 1,000 calories of fat from your body. So I'm eating like 12, 13, 1,400 calories a day, but it's like there's 20,000 calories in my body to burn. So my current macros are probably like 55% fat, maybe 50. Like I said, those exact numbers that I told you. And it's only been 5 days, but frankly, I feel really good. I haven't been hungry. I have lost a few pounds. At the end of a week, I'm gonna actually do a reel about this and give you the full update and tell you exactly how much I've lost. But I think I could do this for like 6 to 8 weeks and literally be at my goal weight, and then add fat back into my diet, because then I no longer want to burn my body fat. So that's what I'm doing now. And I will absolutely kind of share that journey along the way. If I have any setbacks hormonally or with my skin, or if I'm losing a bunch of hair or something like that, I will be upfront about that and I will stop. But so far it's going great. And I've had since I announced this on my stories, I've had a lot of DMs of people being like, be careful. I tried this, I didn't like it. But I've had an equal or maybe more amount of people say, that's exactly what works for me. I still do it, or I did it in the past. It's been great. So this is just another one of those examples of things that are just different for everybody. But I think so far, this seems like a really good fit for me. But I swear, for those of you who message me concerned, I swear to God, I will not let anything out of hand. I will mind how I'm feeling, and I will pay very close attention. I will not put myself at risk. But I think it's just another method that could be useful. So I think that's all the questions. I'm so proud of myself and so proud of you guys for being here. So if you guys have any other questions that you want me to answer live right now, put them in the question box. Otherwise, I'm going to just stand here for a minute, drink some water, and wave at you guys that are just joining. And if you missed anything, I will post the replay on my page as soon as we get off. And I'm going to try, this is a big task, but I'm going to try to timestamp the answers to the questions and tag you guys so that you can, if you're not watching live, you can go back and look at the replay and say, oh, 4 minutes, 17 seconds is the answer to my question. That's how much I love you, okay? Okay, Crystal, you sent me a request to join the video. I don't know if that's what you meant to do. You might have meant to ask a question. I'm thinking you did. So if you want to ask a question, Crystal, push the bottom right button. It's a little bubble with a question mark in it. Okay, hockey tea. Any good info you can share for a beginner carnivore? Lots. Get an air fryer. It'll change your life. Don't try to be lion or perfect macros or anything. Just eat whatever animal foods you like and can afford. Don't worry about grass-fed or any of that. Eat what you like. Eat till you're full. Do that for 4 to 6 weeks till you are truly unaddicted from all those other processed foods and sugars, and you're fat adapted. So you're burning fat as fuel, whether you eat it or whether it's on your body. And then you can start making changes if you want about changing macros, changing calories, adding fasting, whatever tickles your fancy. Is that the saying? But give it 4 to 6 weeks minimum of just enjoy the bacon and the pork rinds and the ribeyes and all of that. That's my best advice. Are nuts, pistachios, and almonds a no? I mean, they're not carnivore, but I suppose some, people that allow some exceptions probably eat it. Nuts and cheese, actually nuts and dairy in general, are the two things that I think people most tend to overeat. So that can be tricky, especially if you're trying to lose weight. And I've also heard that there's a lot of anti-nutrients in nuts because they are the seeds, they are the babies of the plant, so it's the thing that they most want to protect. So, I mean, you may be putting yourself at risk if you're having issues with anti-nutrients in your food. All right, Crystal, I don't see that you've asked a question yet. Okay, how did you stay regular on the carnivore diet? I'm not sure if you mean period-wise or just how did I stay on the carnivore diet. If you mean how did I stay on the carnivore diet without dying or without cheating, I almost said dying. That was interesting. Then I did that by saying I'm never cheating ever. There is no exception for me. I'm not eating donuts at so-and-so's birthday party at work. I'm not taking a taste of things. I'm just eating animal products. These other things are not food for me. And once I did that enough, now I believe it in my bones, and I feel like sugar is poison, and so it's not hard to resist. All right, what are your thoughts on sardines? So great question. I actually want to add sardines once I'm off the lion diet because they're very high in something. I forgot what. It's not magnesium because it's anchovies that are really high in magnesium, so I'm gonna add those too. But there are lots of health benefits to sardines. I feel like it's weird and it's gonna be funny eating something with little bones in it, but I'm gonna try it. So I would encourage you to do so as well if you want to. Oh, the regular question was about bowel movements. Okay, I guess that can go a lot of ways, When I first went carnivore, I had explosive diarrhea for 3 months. I mean, no, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, not 3 months. And then after that, I mean, you might say I'm not regular. I now go every 3 to 6 days, but I was uber duper constipated before I became a carnivore. So this is way better than it used to be. The frequency is a little more now. And as far as like softness, right, it's way better. I have a YouTube video coming up about this soon of all my embarrassing stories. So check that out when it comes out. But it's way, way better. And in general, what seems to help people is if you're not going, well, not necessarily if you're not going enough, because you may not go a lot, but if it's hard and it's difficult to pass, then you need to add fat to your diet. If you are having watery diarrhea, then you need to take some fat out. That's the main thing that seems to help people. And yes, Natalie said nuts are higher in oxalates and other toxins. Yes, absolutely. Is cheese a heavy cream? And no. Technically, carnivore, at least in my opinion, any animal product. So cheese and dairy are animal products. Those are allowed. It's just that lots of people have issues with dairy, whether it's because of their health, autoimmune issues or something like that, or because of addictive issues with dairy. So if you can tolerate it just fine, freaking have it. You're lucky. I wish I could have all the cheese and all the dairy, but I just can't. Oh, Crystal, you didn't mean to hit the join button. You're just listening. Well, hey, I'm happy for you to be here and listen. How did I not die without carbs and fiber? Oh my gosh, girl, I almost died with fiber. So I was so constipated before, and I saw multiple doctors about this. I even saw, I'm a physical therapist, and I saw another physical therapist who's a pelvic floor specialist who kind of specialized in constipation. And she gave me this concoction of like flaxseed and prune juice, and all the oatmeal, all this crap. I was eating so much fiber, 50, 60 grams of fiber a day. And I just was pooping even less and less. So it's an exaggeration to say that I almost died, but I felt like I almost died. And then without carbs, man, it was hard for the first couple weeks, but I was also in the throes of like terrible psoriasis. So that helped, that kept me motivated. But once you get past 3 or 4 weeks without carbs, it's really not that hard, I swear. Okay, somebody's saying omega-3. Oh, sardines must be high in omega-3s. It also has calcium if it has bones. That's good to know, because I've been tracking my micronutrients and I'm not getting much calcium because I'm not doing any dairy. So another reason to have sardines. Meat Kaizen Natalie wants to know, what's my favorite go-to meal on the Lion diet? And is there something you're tired of or don't want again? There's nothing I'm tired of and don't want again. I have enjoyed everything I've been eating on the carnivore diet. My go-to meal, before I changed my macros to be lower fat, my go-to meal was probably chopped up chuck roast with fat trimmings, carnivore cereal. It's so freaking good. But now that I'm keeping my fat low, I really can't add any fat to anything. So right now my go-to meal is usually a cup of bone broth and like some ground beef. But I'm not even tired of that. I have really enjoyed everything. Australian lamb is so tasty. Yes, I mean, I have only had lamb here in the States, but it's really good. Tips to make carnivore fun. Briskets, pork belly, chicken thighs covered in crackling. Okay, so that's not a question. That's you saying yes. Those all sound very fun. Brisket, pork belly, chicken thighs, chicken wings. That all sounds delicious. Okay, you guys are asking a bunch more questions. All right, I'll stay on then. How about fruit? Love snack of previously frozen strawberries and blueberries. I mean, I don't eat any fruit. I think as a former binge eater, having the sweet taste is too triggering, and also getting my glucose and insulin up is just not, I just do better not doing that. So I don't eat fruit, but some people that are animal-based do, and I think that generally strawberries and blueberries, if you're going to eat non-carnivore foods, are some of the least, they have some of the least issues. So if you want fruit, you have it. You have my blessing. Do you eat many eggs? I do when I'm not on the Lion diet. But one of the points of going on the Lion diet in the first place was to slowly reintroduce things to see if they're creating any issues for me, especially when it comes to my skin. Now, I can almost already say 100% that dairy does, so I probably shouldn't even bother adding it back in. The first thing I will add back in, as I said, is coffee, and then the second thing I will add back in, because it makes my life so much better and easier, is eggs. But a lot of people have, irritation, or I guess you could say an allergy to some protein in the egg whites. So first I will add egg yolks for a week, and if that goes okay, then I'll add the whole egg for a week. And I'm praying that I can continue to keep eggs in my diet, because normally I do like to eat maybe 6 eggs a day. I love that change of texture, you know, like having a different texture than meat is really nice, and it's great socially because you can go out to breakfast and that kind of thing with other people. I love eggs. Okay, I've never cooked pork belly. How do you do it in the air fryer? I have also never cooked pork belly, so if I were to get one, I would just probably Google it. But if any of you in the comments can give suggestions of how to cook pork belly in the air fryer, that would be great. For Natty Rose 1971. How did you, oh yeah, that's the poop thing. All right, that's everything. So you guys are so awesome. I'm so happy I got to spend the evening with you. And thank you so much for joining. I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Okay, someone said he'll post it to cook pork belly. So Meat-Based Monster is either gonna post it on his page, or maybe he'll post it in the comments of the replay so you can see how to make pork belly. But someone else said, you cook pork belly the same as me, cooks fat trimmings. Cut it in the air fryer. Okay, so in that case, you must cut it into chunks, throw it in the air fryer for 7 or 8 minutes, and it's crispy and delicious. All right, thank you so much, guys. We'll see you later. Thanks for joining.